years old. So maybe that's it too. Maybe it's just whatever. All right. So we're going to come in now and we're going to work on the second page. All right. And this second page, as I already mentioned to you, it shouldn't take as long as the last one did. At least that's my hope. Now, if you look up on the screen, you don't have to do this, but if you look up on the screen, it's funny, it's because whenever I'm changing windows in here, that's when it's basically happening. Come on, work. All right, hopefully this stays up. So this is what we've got, and now if we go over to our About page, well, this is what we're going to have. I'll tell you that. All right, in just a few minutes, that's what we're going to have. So I guess I've got an old copy of it here. So right now, if I go to the About page, it looks just like the home page, and that should make sense. All right. I mean, at least on yours, if you do that, it should look exactly the same. All right. So let's first, whether this comes up or not, let's talk about what we need and what we need to get rid of. All right. So go to your about.html page, please. Okay. And looking at this, in here, in our head section, first thing we want to do is we want to change it from home to about. Should make sense because it's the about page. Secondly, we don't need the Font Awesome links because we're not going to add any icons in here. It doesn't hurt to have them. You know, you could say, well, I might put them in someday, and that's true. So you could leave them in there and just fine, or you could leave them in there and comment them out, or you could remove them. Any of those ways would be okay. All right. Our nav bar, well, think about what we have to change here. Look on the screen, please. This class equal current. Now class equal current has got to be set to our about page. So in other words, we want to do this. Am I right? I'm not trying to make assumptions, but am I right in assuming that makes sense to everyone? So now, when you run this, that yellow is going to appear on there. All right? Okay. Now, we're not going to have a showcase in our header, so we can remove this. All right? And in our main, we are going to have some sections, but they're all going to be different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just literally, I'm going to keep that section tag that's right there. And I'm going to keep the ending one. So that's all I've got. And I'm going to give it a different ID in just a minute. So right now, that's literally all I have in my body. Okay? And I'm going to start adding stuff. The good news is there's not that much to add. There really and truly isn't. A lot of this is textual. So what we're going to do is we'll do the lorem thing that we've been doing. All right. So I'm going to try, what I think I'm going to do is, since this is up and running, until I shouldn't even say that, I'm going to try to see if we can put in all the code for this page before I change pages. So it's going to look ugly as hell. Then we'll go to the CSS page and put in all the CSS. Makes sense to everybody? I'm not even going to test this. As long as this stays up, I'm going to just try to keep working with it the way I've got it. All right. This is our About page. So I'm going to put an ID in here of About-info. And I'm going to put two classes in here. one class is going to be equal to that BG neutral. So this is going to be a gray page. Everybody hear me? Up near the top, it's going to be gray, and that's fine. Neutral. And I'm going to say, you might remember this, you might not. One of the things that we put in there was the PY-3, which was 30 pixels of padding all the way, I think all the way around. So that's in there. All right, so there's our start. As we've been doing on virtually every page, div class equal container. Again, that's going to allow us basically to do our centering, etc. To hopefully make this look as good as we can possibly make it look. And I don't have my closing tag. You see this? Can you see? I don't know, Christopher, you can tell it from back there, or Connor, if you. But that ending div tag there on line 35, you see where it's black? It's because I didn't close this one. This is color-coded, so it tries to give you clues if you're missing something. So if I close this, now it went blue again. All right, and I do that all the time. I don't know if you ever do, but like I said, I just do it all the time, not purposely. But so first thing I'm going to do is do a div. Class is going to be equal to info left. Because again, we're going to end up splitting our page on top this time to left and right. I've got another class in there. I don't think we need it, but we'll find out in a minute. All right, so in here, the first thing I'm going to put in is an H1 with a class equal to, we did that yesterday, L heading. And it's literally going to say our founder. Again, I found this picture. I put in, maybe that sounds sexist. I'm sorry, I don't mean it to, but I put in old woman on Unsplash, and she was the first one who came up that looked like she could own a company. Okay, so that's how I got that. All right. Then next, I'm going to put in a paragraph here. Don't worry about it. I'm going to add some stuff in here in just a minute. All right. And I'm going to steal back from my index page. You can do a lorem 40. I'm just going to grab this. All right. Again, you do it either way you want to do it is totally fine. That's not what I want. Oh, there we go. All right. So I'm going to paste that into here. Okay, and then underneath that, I'm going to put in another paragraph. And I'm going to grab half the stuff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. So we'll grab about the first 3.5 lines, something like that. I don't know, that looks about right. And I'm going to paste that in. So I've got a lorem 40. And then hopefully a lorem 20. Again, it may not be exact, and that's totally fine. All right. So that's our first div. It's got in there a heading 1 with our founder, and it's got 2 paragraphs worth of text. All right. So underneath that, probably not a surprise, I'm going to put in another div. And my other one was div class equal info left. You're all smart people, so you can probably guess this will be div info right. It's going to be the other side of the page. All right. And what am I going to have in there? So div class equal info right. Yeah, we might have to put some padding in here. We'll see. This time, I just decided I'm going to embed the image. I'm not going to put it in as a background. So I said source equals dot image I don't even need that. I could have just started with image, founder.jpg, and I've got alt equal our founder. It's not perfect, but I think everybody understands what we're trying to do there. Okay? Now, let's see. Into the div. That's our first section. We've got one more section to put in, and it's 20 or 30 lines, but the good news is it's going to have 2 long paragraphs in it. So we're going to be able, again, to come in and just copy that text. All right? So that's our first one. Anybody have any problem? Need anything shown, repeated, whatever? All right. So under this first section, we're going to put in, surprise, another section. I am taping. Good deal. All right, so here will be our next section in here. Again, div class equal container. In my div. All right, and in that container div, what are we going to have? Well, first an h2 class equals L-heading. What our satisfied customers say. H2. Now that's a little hard, I think, for you guys to read, so I'm going to put that underneath. You don't have to do that. You can do that. All right, I think that's easier for you to see what's going on looking at that. All right, the idea is these are supposed to be satisfied customers. Okay? Did you ever see that where somebody, you go out to a website and they interview somebody and they go, I've been using this product for 50 years and I swear by it. Okay, that kind of thing. Typically those are referred to as what? They're called testimonials. So we're going to call this, basically, this will be our testimonial section. Didn't have to be that, but try to come up with words that would make sense. All right, so first I've got here div class equal testimonial. We haven't written that class yet in our CSS, so we will. And bg-neutral. Let's end our div. Yours ended automatically, I know that. So we're going to put our image in here. Oops. img source equals image slash, this is going to be client 01.jpg, and whoops, alt equals, I gave her a name. Don't ask me why, but somehow Samantha from the old Bewitched television show popped into my head, so I called her Samantha. I don't know why, but I just did. All right. Then we're going to put in a paragraph. And I'm going to grab all 40 of those words from that big paragraph we had up here. And I'm going to put them back into here. I'll just leave it like that. That's good. So this section right here, yes, I did. No, I did not. Okay, right here. This is the div we just put in. This is going to be our first customer, our first testimonial. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, the good news is, grab this whole div, grab all of it, starting with class equal testimonial right there. grab the whole div from top to bottom, copy it to the clipboard, and paste it in. All right. The only thing we have to change is two things. First, instead of client 1, it's going to be client 2. And second, it's a male. And I don't know how I came up with this, but I put in Jonathan. And actually, the picture of this guy, he looks kind of different. All right. So there's nothing wrong with the name Jonathan. It's just what I decided to call it. Again, if you want, you could put Angie in there for the female's name, and you could put Gabriel in there for the male's name. I could care less. Okay? So the good news is we're done with all that. This page is done. I'm not even going to bring it up because, again, I don't want this to leave. So I'm going to go over to my CSS. All right? And there's not a boatload of CSS we've got to put in here. There's a little bit, but it's not that much. 30, 40, something like that lines. I don't know. But we're going to put it in. So let's go to our styles.css. And after our features, but before our footer, I'm going to put in here about, because it's our about page. All right, so I'm going to start putting in the stuff for the about page. And it looks like it's 202 to, it's about 45 lines. All right, I don't think that's terrible, so we should be able to do this. So the first, hashtag about-info, and let's do our info left, dot info dash left. All right, we'll do our left and then we'll do our right. So the left, we'll float it left. We're going to make the width 50%. And the minimum height will be 100%. Okay. Next, we'll do our info right. I'm going to just grab all this. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to because I'm being lazy. So I'm going to make that right. And this isn't quite the same. We're going to float it right instead of floating it left. We're going to make it 50% and 100%. Okay, so that's good. What's left? That image. So let me get rid of this. Okay, and this is going to have display block, margin auto, width 70%. I want it to take up the whole page, or the whole 50%. And border radius, we do want this one to be circular. So border radius 50%. Now, hopefully, I can make it a little bit smaller. Can you all read that okay? That's everything for our about section. So we've got to do our testimonials, and that's about 20 lines, and then we're finished. All right, so my hope is we're done close to 10 o'clock. I'm going to give you time at 11 o'clock. So my question is, does everybody have this stuff? Okay, I'll leave the bottom one here in case you're a little bit farther behind, but that's, so the next thing is what? Our testimonials. All right. So for the testimonials themselves, height of 100%, background can I cheat? I want to grab one of those backgrounds that I've already done because I know they work. I just moved up a little bit. So So I can put that background in. This is going to have a different, this is Mansion 02, and it doesn't have a min height, but it has a padding top of 100 pixels. All right, let me make sure I've got all that. Height 100%, background, image. Notice that's got dot dot. The other ones had just dot. Dot means start from where I currently am. Dot dot means go up one. I'm in the CSS folder, so I've got to do dot dot. So I go up to my main area and then go to CSS. All right, so if yours doesn't work, you put a dot where you should have put a dot dot, or vice versa. The reason I'm using this is a year from now, you're going to be in a Node.js class, and we do that kind of stuff and move around all the time. All right, so I just want you to at least get some kind of comfort level with it, hopefully. All right, so we're starting with our testimonials. I'll leave that up there. And these testimonials have an H2. So when we are putting our stuff in there for that H2, we'll have a color. I don't like the way this turned out, but I'm using it anyway, of black. It's the default, but I like to put it in there so there's no doubt. Text align, center, padding, bottom of 40 pixels. All right. We literally have about 10 more lines, and then we are finished. Leave it up there and just make sure I would like everybody to catch up before we put the rest of it in. So again, take a look at this, and when you get done, take a look at the CSS. I've already told you where that could be improved. How we are using, for example, background pound 000080, which is navy all over the place. I should have really made that a class. Okay, you shouldn't really call that navy, even though it is, because you might change it. But I could have called that like BG-primary, background primary, something like that. And the other one, secondary, would be yellow. All right, so we could probably fix up, so to speak, a lot of this stuff, pretty it up, make it look a lot cleaner, and really get rid of a lot of our CSS by just including that class. Then every place where we have the color in the background, we could remove those, but we'd have to add that class in our HTML. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. You might look at this later and say, I don't like the colors you used here. This is supposed to be a learning tool for you. You don't have to do a darn thing with it, except what we're going to do on Monday again is we're going to write the, just as an introduction, we're going to create a simple form for the contact page. We don't get into that till chapter 13, but I'm going to give you all the code. Then when we get done with that and we put in the contact.html and we have added the CSS for it, we're going to push this out to the internet. You're actually going to have it out there. All right? Now, that's the beginning of your portfolio when you look at it. If you decide that you want to make that available to people, that's fine. But it's ugly as hell right now, so I'd suggest you pretty it up before you do that. Because if you put it out there and you make it public for everybody, and everybody can see it, everybody can use it, etc. All right? So, taken for granted now everybody's caught up. So right under our testimonials H2, I'm going to have testimonials.testimonial, because we had a class in there, testimonial. All right. And that has padding of 20 pixels, margin bottom of 40 pixels, a border radius of 5 pixels, and this is new, but we have looked at this before. We're going to put an opacity in here. What that's going to mean is you're going to see, we're going to just set it to 90%. You're going to be able to see through this testimonial thing a little bit to see the background. Just because it gave us a chance to use something we haven't used too much in here. So, opacity. And opacity is always a number between 0 and 1. 0 is totally transparent. 1 is totally opaque, meaning you can't see through it at all. We're going to set ours to 0.9. In other words, we have 10% opacity. Does that make sense to people? All right. And then finally, because we only have 4 or 5 more lines to go, found testimonials dot the image. Testimonial img. Just the image. And this is going to handle both of our images. Samantha and Jonathan, it's going to handle both of them. So what do we want to do here? 4 things. Width, 75 pixels. Float to the left. Okay.